What's going on, everybody? Kalipus Tech here, coming back at you with another video. In this video, I'm going to be giving you some reasons why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G. Now, keep in mind, despite the things I'm going to be going over, I don't actually think this is a bad phone. In fact, for what it is actually surprisingly good. That being said though, of course, every phone does have some drawbacks. So throughout this video, I'm going to be giving you my least favorite things about it to help you avoid potential disappointment and really give you a better idea of what to expect if you get it, and also to avoid any potential confusion. I do want to point out once again, this is the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G. As of this recording, the A24 5G is not out, but that will be a completely different phone. Now, if you want to learn more about this phone or see information about pricing and availability, definitely check out the links in the video description. But otherwise, let's get into it. So to start off, my first reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is the materials. Now, on one hand, don't get me wrong, the build quality here is actually pretty decent. It's not like the phone feels like it's falling apart or something. But at the same time, I feel like these materials, it is of course made entirely of plastic. And compared to other phones in the same general price range, made of pretty much the same material, I feel like with this phone, things look and feel a little bit cheaper. One of my main issues here is this glossy back. As you can see, it really shows fingerprints, and of course, unless you're like wearing a glove or something, fingerprints are inevitable, so having a nice frosted or matte finish definitely does help prevent this. Now, to be fair, it does have this kind of cool rainbow effect, but at the same time, the glossiness just really kind of kills the vibe here. And on the sides and everything, it really just doesn't feel very premium. Now, to be fair, this is an entry-level 4G phone, so you can really only expect so much, but just keep in mind if you are looking for a phone that feels a little bit nicer, you could end up being disappointed with this phone. Now, my second reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is, of course, as the name implies, this is not a 5G phone. Now, on one hand, at this point in 2023, or even if you're watching this video in 2024, I really doubt things are going to change that much. But in general, in this day and age, 5G connectivity is definitely not absolutely necessary. In fact, I do think for a 4G phone, this is actually a really good device. And if you don't really care about 5G, I do think this phone is actually a great choice. In fact, for that matter, when we're talking about just pure performance, this phone is actually faster than a lot of entry-level 5G phones. But of course, a case could be made for if you're going out of your way to get a new phone anyway, you might as well get something that has access to your carrier's latest and greatest network, which of course is going to be 5G. So if that's you, if you really want to maximize the value you get for the money, I feel like in that kind of situation, even if it means spending a bit more, a 5G phone is definitely the way to go. But again, if you're not really that concerned about it, keep in mind that despite being a 5G phone, the performance we're getting with this device is actually really good. My third reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is because it doesn't have stereo audio. Now, in case you don't know what this means, when a phone has stereo audio, basically if you're doing something like watching a video, playing a game, listening to music, anything that has sound comes out of both the main speaker and the earpiece, giving you a much more immersive experience. But unfortunately with the A24 4G, for whatever reason, this phone does not have stereo audio. And I feel like this is especially disappointing because at this point in 2023, while this wasn't really the case in previous years, nowadays we're really starting to see more and more entry-level phones that do have stereo audio. So if you are someone who tends to consume a lot of content, especially without headphones or an external speaker, this definitely is a drawback to think about. And even if you don't really consume a lot of content, or maybe you typically use headphones anyway, sure, on one hand, you might never even notice, but I feel like having stereo audio or really just a good quality phone speaker in general really gives the phone a lot more versatility. So overall, no matter how you look at it, not having stereo audio is definitely disappointing. Now, my fourth reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 is the video resolution. Now, with this phone, when it comes to video, we are getting a max recording quality of 1080p in both the rear and front cameras. Now, to be fair, on one hand, I don't really think 4K is that essential. In fact, this video you're watching isn't even 4K. So yeah, of course, not everyone is really going to care that much about this, but I feel like at the same time, especially for those of you who are maybe content creators, for example, if you're recording a lot of videos, you might want the option to record in a slightly higher resolution, especially nowadays since pretty much every TV is 4K. It would be nice to be able to record a video on your phone and then watch it in the max resolution on your TV. And while again, it's probably a bit more of a niche feature, considering there are lots of phones that are really not that much more expensive than this that can record 4K videos. If that is something you really care about, then you might want to skip this phone. Now, my fifth reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is because it doesn't have a built-in screen recorder. Now, this is kind of a little thing, but at the same time, a screen recorder is really a feature you expect in pretty much any phone. I've seen phones that go for like $50 at full price that have screen recorders. And while again, to be fair, it's really not that big a deal, considering in the Google Play Store, as you can see, there are like 100 different screen recording apps. But at the same time, I feel like again, it's really just a basic feature that you typically find in really any smartphone. So as you can see, there is no screen recorder here. And even if we try to add it, again, there is really nothing, despite having a lot of decent features here, like NFC for example. Definitely glad this phone does have that. And even a screenshot button, there is no screen recorder, which again is definitely disappointing in my opinion. So if those little convenient kind of features are more important to you, definitely keep this in mind. And if you do have this phone and you find yourself wanting to do a screen recording, keep in mind, you will have to get a separate app. Now my sixth reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is because it's not officially launched in the US. Now of course, if you're not in the US, this is really not going to matter, but if you are, keep in mind, despite this phone actually being really good for what it is, and if you get it factory unlocked, it will work on pretty much any carrier as far as I know. It's not officially launched here. So basically what that means is if you happen to be in the US and you want to get this phone, you will have to get it factory unlocked, which to be fair, going for around $185, it's really not that expensive. But at the same time, I feel like it still is more of an entry-level device, and for the money, you can probably get something a bit better, especially through a US carrier. I know lots of carriers are offering deals on stuff like the Samsung Galaxy A24 5G for example, and depending on your carrier, you might be able to get it for like $100 or free or something like that. And for $185, you might even be able to get something like a flagship phone or something. So my point is, on one hand, for what it is, I do think this phone is actually really good. But at the same time, if you are trying to find a really good deal and really maximize the value you're getting for the money you pay, then considering the deals offered by US carriers nowadays, despite this phone still being good, there is a good chance you can do better. And then finally, my seventh reason why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is because this phone does not have wireless charging. Now, this one is really for those of you who haven't gotten a phone for a while and maybe you're coming from an older but higher end device. Chances are a phone like that will have wireless charging, and you may be thinking that at this point in 2023, pretty much every phone has wireless charging now, but unfortunately that's really not the case. Even in this day and age, wireless charging is really a feature you're only going to see in higher end devices, and maybe a small handful of more unique lower end phones, but really if you are looking for wireless charging, you're not going to find it in a phone like this. But those were 7 reasons why you might not want the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G. Again, in general, despite these drawbacks, which honestly in my opinion are really not that big a deal anyway, I do think this is a great phone. And if you're looking for a 4G phone that's not too expensive, but also has really good performance, a great display, a really nice camera, plenty of storage, features like NFC, and a large battery, I do think the Samsung Galaxy A24 4G is definitely worth considering. Now once again, if you want to learn more about this phone, definitely check out the description, where I am linking to several other videos about it, as well as some information about pricing, availability, and some of my favorite smartphone accessories. But that's it for this video. If you enjoyed it and found it useful, be sure to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to follow Kalipa's Tech on Twitter and Instagram. And as always, I will see you in the next video.